And hello, Detroit sports fanatics and Michigan sports fanatics everywhere, and welcome to episode 212 of the Michigan Sports Truth on Spreaker, the show that actually gets it right and reveals the truth instead of just being honest with lazy opinions. I'm Taylor Phillips. Follow me on Twitter at DT2Phillips. I'm live from my basement apartment office in the northern outskirts of McBain, Michigan, and with me on Facebook Messenger audio from the state of Georgia, as always, is my co-host Ed Smith. You can follow him on Twitter at EdSmith313. Thanks so much for being on here with me, Ed. Again, how are you?
Doing very, very quite well, Taylor. It's minor hiccups in terms of trying to get this episode together. Some of it, I'll admit, a bit of my own fault in that, but I take responsibility. I'm just ready to keep things rolling and on with the show.
All right, we're going to talk a lot of Tigers and plenty of Wings as well as along with a little bit of Lions. And we'll check on the Griffins too. Don't worry about that. So let's go ahead and get to the Tigers here.
That one is long gone.
Well, what can we say? The Tigers have really spiraled down. They have lost now 11 of 13, which actually includes their win 6-5 earlier Sunday afternoon, with the help of back-to-back home runs by J.D. Martinez and Miguel Cabrera in the top of the eighth inning. I think the Tigers were trying to save Brad Ausmus's job. Like those other fans that don't follow as much as we do, they thought this was going to be a barn burner, and it actually was. But
for a weird instance, it felt like a playoff game for some reason, where not only your season is on the line, but in this case, the Tigers' manager's job was on the line as well. And it would seem very ironic, cruel twist and irony, or coincidence, however you want to look at it, that if this were to be Brad Ausmus's last few games, or his last game, rather, as a manager of the Detroit Tigers, it would be against a team that really he should have been fired for losing to at the end of 2014, which, of course, were the Baltimore Orioles.
It's right. And before the Baltimore Orioles series, which was a 4-game series, they had that series in Washington, D.C. with the Nationals at Nationals Park. One of the games was a series finale between that consisted of a pitcher's duel between Jordan Zimmermann and former Tiger starting pitcher Max Scherzer. Jordan Zimmermann is also a former starting pitcher for the Nationals. Both teams pitched kind of an even game, but the story of that game was Max Scherzer, 20 games, 20 strikeouts, a record, but he couldn't do it alone without the help of inconsistent Tigers batting, as we all see it.
It's clearly evident. I think that is one of the prime factors that is needed for an occasional, an occasional start where a pitcher does phenomenal stuff, looks awesome. Either be the flirting with a no hitter, getting the no hitter, perfect game, or in the case of Scherzer, the 20 strikeouts. Scherzer's still great, by merit, but he definitely got a little bit of extra help in this start, facing a very struggling Tigers offense.
Yeah, and they've struggled like for the entire slump they've been in. Again, losing 11 of the last 13 games. They struggled so badly that they had to call up Stephen Moya for the Baltimore Orioles series for the first of it. And Moya went 2 for 4 in the first of the 4-game series, which wasn't bad.
Nothing bad, but that's the thing with these sample sizes. You never know how they could turn out. It could lead to one thing, it could lead to another. I quickly lost my train of thought. My apologies. I was going to mention something that happened I was at work today, unfortunately, so I couldn't catch any replay of the game. But from what I saw on Twitter, there was an issue regarding a first base umpire who probably made a call that he shouldn't have made, and in turn, it helped the Tigers out. Could you delve further into this for me, Taylor, if you have the chance?
I actually couldn't catch that, so yeah, continue on.
Well, it was a needed win, but like you said, when you still lose 11 out of your last 13, I know they always say baseball season is a marathon, not a stretch, but if you're a team that has the payroll that the Tigers have, and you had a disappointing season last year, trying to build off of that, having, in my opinion, a great offseason, making terrific adjustments and additions to your team, and you come out the gate like this, it is beyond inexcusable, beyond period. It is, where's the lack? It's an issue where accountability has to be taken, responsibility needs to be taken, and without doubt, action needs to be taken as well. I'm of the belief that Brad Ausmus should have been fired at the end of last year. Apparently, Mike Ilitch thought the same thing. I don't know why he didn't act upon it, but if he's trying to get it done now, better late than never. But I don't want this to linger on too long, because if you try to figure out, who's going to be your manager now, who's going to be, whether it be interim or whatever the case may be for this season, it's going to turn into a dismal disaster. It's going to turn into what it was last year, only worse, believe it or not, because you have no leadership at the top. But if you get it sorted out now and quickly, I would still say there is a chance to make this season, shocking as it is to say, salvageable. Because currently, you're 7.5 back of believe it or not, of all teams leading the AL Central. Chicago, the White Sox of all teams, have started out great. They've lost their last couple of games in a row, but they're still 24-14, 10 games over. In fact, they're the only team above 500 in the AL Central, whereas you see Cleveland, Kansas City, Detroit, they're second to last place, but they're not out of that second place spot in the AL Central. They're a mere 2.5 games behind the Cleveland Indians. So what you would say, if I was Detroit, I wouldn't focus on trying to get to the top of the Central, even though it will be probably your preferred goal in terms of wanting to win a division title. But seeing how Kansas City has had its resurgence the past couple of years, they're practically now the team with the bullseye on them in the AL Central, not the Tigers for once. So if I'm Detroit, I would use that to my advantage of trying, pile up as many wins as possible. If we win the division, cool. But main primary objective here for this year, get into the playoffs. I don't care if it's a wild card. I don't care if it's if it's a play-in game, whatever it is. Get into the playoffs, you have a shot, because as it has been proven in many, many recent years, to make a deep run or even win the World Series, at least two of the following things are consistent: strong pitching and timely, reliable hitting. This is where I guess you could say brains meets the brawn in these types of matches, because usually great pitching overpowers great hitting. So your hits become scarce and few and far between. It comes down to those timely hits in clutch fashion, as to whether that will win you games and in essence championships. So, long story short, if you get into the playoffs in baseball, as long as you have reliable pitching and timely hitting, you have a chance. And that's all you ask for. And if you're the Tigers, let's see, you got Miguel Cabrera, you got JD Martinez, you got Victor Martinez, currently now getting back to trying to prove that last year was an anomaly. Nick Castellanos now, he's getting pop in his bat. If you can find a way, and not to mention some of the guys that you have that can steal bases for you, Jose Iglesias for one. Those are guys that, if gotten on base or given a chance at the plate, can give you a time hit. in a needed situation, it comes down to, once again, can your pitching produce? So far, we're not getting good returns. I'll admit that. The only one that has been consistent has been Jordan Zimmerman. Others have been at best, including Justin Verlander. But if that shit can be righted, at least from your starting pitching perspective, it comes down to a case of, yes, the Achilles heel so far, unfortunately, is still the bullpen. But, like I said, this is a Tigers team that's had bullpen problems for ages, and yet, for some reason, they still found themselves getting to the ALCS, 2011, 2012, 2013, 3 years in a row, and in the case of 2012, still got to the World Series. So it comes to a case where, okay, you have your starting pitching. If with the guys that you have, knowing that they can perform to the best of their abilities, you need to focus your primary objective in terms of fixing whatever pitching goals you have. Try to clear up on your bullpen, so that way, if and when you get into the playoffs, that this prolonged weakness of yours could actually be, in some instances, resolved to where it won't be so much of a hindrance to you as it would have been back in, say, 2013 or 2012.
Yeah, that's all absolutely true. You mentioned Justin Verlander. Verlander's last two starts were pretty decent. In fact, his last two starts were his last two starts combined. He only gave up just one run. He settled for the no decision at home against the Texas Rangers a weekend ago, and then last Friday night he suffered a 1-0 loss, going the distance in all 8 innings pitched. You mentioned that Verlander was one of those other starting pitchers that was at best until those last two starts.
Yeah, he's had a very good stretch of his last two starts. Of course, he's leading the team in strikeouts currently with 50. His K per 9 ratio, at 9, just over 9, seems about right. His whip I would say, a decent but could be way better 1.23. It's not like what it is with Jordan Zimmerman, who has it at a very good 1.1. So, Anibal Sanchez continues to be a curious case altogether. His whip is at a 1.59 to go along with his 5.91 ERA. Yikes. It could come down to a case where if he doesn't get his act together, I don't know what the Tigers are going to do with him. Could they try to trade him? If so, who's going to want to buy into that? But Sanchez is definitely an X factor for the starting rotation. If he gets his head right, he can make this rotation even better than what way better, I would say, definitely for sure, than what we're currently getting right now. Because it seems like Zimmerman is pulling the weight. Verlander's starting to come around. We'll be getting Tanner Norris back into the fray. Mike Pelfrey, he is what he is. Other guys like Shane Green and whatnot. It's going to come down basically to your big three: Zimmerman, Verlander, Sanchez. Zimmerman has been proven to be great so far. Verlander, we'll see. Sanchez, if that's the guy you want to hope out for.
Let's go back to the call-ups for a second. There were two more besides Stephen Moya. Daniel Norris was called up earlier last week, and then he was sent back down for Australian prospect Warwick Saupold from the AAA Toledo Mudhens. Warwick Saupold actually got his first major league win today, and then.
Good. Yeah. He pitched 3 1/3 innings, gave up 3 hits, and 2 walks, but he rebounded greatly with 4 strikeouts. He did what he needed to do to keep his team in the game, and eventually it worked out well. So good for him. Good for the young fella.
Absolutely. And then after today's game, the Tigers finally get Cameron Maybin back. Yes, that is true, folks. Cameron Maybin was just called up from the Toledo Mud Hens, and so the Tigers had to make a tough decision move, sending Anthony Gose down to the Toledo Mud Hens because Anthony Gose, he's projected to. He was supposed to be the number one center fielder, but his bat as usual has not come around.
Yeah, I mean he's had far too many strikeouts, to say the least. It's been a real hindrance on his ability to perform at the plate. Give me one brief second here. Ghost. All right, here's Ghost's numbers. What I'm looking at right now. Yeah, not good to say the least. 209 batting average, OPP of 280, sub 300 OBP, OPS barely over 600, got an offensive WAR of 0.2. So, and he has 38 strikeouts and how many plate appearances? He's got 38 strikeouts and 91 batting plate appearances. That's over 30% of your appearances at the plate so far this season, ending in strikeouts. That is not good at all.
Man, oh man.
Don't you think I know that? Down for some reevaluation or to tune up something. This will be the right time to do it. You got Maben back, good. We'll see what Moya can continue to bring. But Ghost is just, he's had a bad start to say the least.
I'm pretty sure Tyler Collins is not platooning with Cameron Maben much because Cameron Maben needs more experience with the Tigers. Again, he's had plenty of experience in the majors. Don't get us wrong, but Cameron Maben must show the Tigers what he's made of, how much he's got, how much he still has. It's been 10 years since Cameron Maben made the majors. First made the majors.
Yeah.
And he was a Tiger as well.
Yeah. Remember, he was the one of the players that was utilized in that trade to bring Miguel Cabrera to Detroit from the then known as Florida Marlins, now the Miami Marlins. He was one of those players used as a key factor in that now, in terms of looking back, very memorable trade. Good for Detroit, not so good for the Marlins, of course. But I agree with you on Maben. He needs to show us what he can bring to the table. Show us why we went after him to begin with in the off season. He's a well recognizable name that could draw a lot of intrigue from fans, and with intrigue comes expectation. So you don't want to be too much of a down note in the expectation department, because especially after what we've seen from Ghost. So if he shows that he is at least a capable improvement from what Anthony Ghost has been at the plate, at least, then he's definitely earned way more time on the main roster for sure.
Let's go back to Brad Ausmus here. We still have no word lately after Jeff Moss got his source from his secret source that told the DSR that Brad Ausmus will be out between now and Monday when the Tigers play the return to Comerica Park and play to start a 9-game homestand with a 3-game series, with the first of a 3-game series against the lowly Minnesota Twins coming up after that Baltimore Orioles series. That the Upton signing and the Brad Ausmus firing after the 4-game series was over. We're still getting no word on that since Moss's tweet. You can follow Jeff Moss of the founder, creator, and editor-in-chief of the Detroit Sports Rag at Jeff Moss DSR. He's got legitimate sources, and he reveals the truth about everything in Detroit sports and in the Detroit sports media as well. The grueling truth. But Brad Ausmus.
You don't want to discredit this source, because after all, according to Moss, this was the same person who told him mere weeks before the Justin Upton signing that the Tigers were still looking into Justin Upton. So you want to take this person at their word, but in this day and age with social media and the need rather for instant gratification and whatnot, or quicker returns rather, you would want to see some proof, so to speak. Like, is there going to be a release? Is there going to be a report, a spot, ESPN or whatever, saying breaking news: Brad Ausmus has been let go or fired, or he's going to step down, even. Because we would have thought the way things were going last week, you would have thought last week was it, especially the way it went down, losing badly in from the home crowd on Mother's Day. Even Ausmus had a meeting closed doors or whatever the case, and even he seemed resigned to the fact that he knows his fate is imminent. So maybe that could have been the case where he met with Al Avila, maybe Mike Ilitch as well, saying, listen, we're going to give you one more week. At the end of that week, if it still doesn't look good, no matter what you do on that Sunday, we got to let you go after the game. So maybe they're just giving Brad the chance to, good thing they got to win today, but they're still giving a chance to get through to the night. Who knows, maybe pack his stuff, whatever the case may be, before maybe announcing either in the morning or early afternoon before. Because let me see. Tomorrow's start time, hold on one second.
7:10.
Yeah, they're 7:10 against Minnesota. So they got between now and 7:10 Eastern time today, actually, to let us know, to either validate or discredit this apparent source of what the hell is going to be the future of Brad Ausmus. And they got plenty of time. We're just waiting. It's pins and needles, so to speak. It's like one of those election night coverages on TV. We're still waiting for results in different precincts to report.
That's true. Yeah. Brad Ausmus. A lot of people a lot of us were finding out that Brad Ausmus has no control of this team. Well, almost no control of this team. He just doesn't have the brain power or the aggressiveness. He's not that Dick Tracy character that I was looking for. He's not that Dick Tracy character that anybody was looking for after Jim Leyland stepped down at the end of the 2013 season. We thought that Brad Ausmus was smarter at sabermetrics, like we've gone through before, like almost 10 times. Brad Ausmus instead just followed the front office's lead and decided to just coddle the players and not criticize them much, or at all for that matter. It's been going on and on and on since he was first hired, from when he was first hired as manager through today, through right now, and it'll just never stop until he is fired. Period.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple instances, like there was a tweet from Tony Paul saying that now, as of today, the Tigers are 180 wins and 180 losses since Brad Ausmus has become their manager. They're literally at 500. They're literally no better. They're stuck in the mud essentially. So what the hell's going to happen here? There've been I think a tweet sent out from Sean Baligian mentioning the fact that the Tigers have 89 wins and over 100 losses since a certain time frame. Majority of that has come under Ausmus' tenure.
Damn it!
It's just not been good quite as well at all. It just needs to end soon, and you're hoping it comes sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And correction, that was not Tony Paul. That was not Tony Paul. It was Chris Ayotte. Chris Ayotte with a tweet pointing out that Brad Ausmus, his record as Tigers manager so far is 180 wins, 180 losses.
Yep, Chris Ayotte is one of the Tigers beat writers from MLive.com. You can download the app, the MLive Tigers app, on your smartphone, your iPhone, iPad, Android, or BlackBerry or tablet, whichever smartphone device you've got. Just look up that article that says that mentions the 180 and 180 record that Brad Ausmus has in his career as a Major League Baseball as a Major League Baseball manager, all the whole time with the Detroit Tigers. So the rest of the 9-game homestand coming up looks like this. They'll also play the Tampa Bay Rays, who are in fourth place in the AL East, 16-19, and then they have the Philadelphia Phillies coming up, 22-16, second place in the NL East. That's going to be another tough series, but the Tigers and Twins and even the Tigers and Rays should be an easy one, considering considering how much talent the Tigers have altogether this year. But again, Brad Ausmus still dragging that team down by simply just kicking back, sitting there, not making much in-game decisions at all, but he hasn't this. Well, last year he made horrid moves when Jabba Chamberlain was on the Tigers team, for example. He kept trusting him until the Tigers unconditionally released him, and that's just one of many examples right there. I mean, it
goes beyond the fact that he's completely inept in terms of trying to manage a ball game. From his body language and his demeanor in general, not just within games, but especially like in post game interviews or whatever, the media press, it does not come off like a guy who should be leading this ball club. Like, honestly sit down and watch one of Brad Ausmus's interviews, and if you did know he was a man and you're not a Tigers fan, what would your impression be? Would you really be feeling comfortable about that guy being your ball club's head manager? Really? So it's beyond a disaster at this point. I mean, even Mike Ilitch, the guy that, Mike Ilitch finally has seen the light in that regard. I'm not sure how much of the light he has seen, because if he gets his way, he's either getting Jim Leland or Ron Gardenhire. So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't, times 3. We either get an Ausmus, Leland, or Gardenhire if one thing happens or another. But something needs to happen, and it needs to happen fast.
Well, the Tigers shouldn't get Gardenhire, and they're probably not going to either, because Gardenhire is even worse. Even worse than an inexperienced manager. He got fired by the Twins after 2014. And he just doesn't, and Gardenhire simply does not have sabermetric knowledge. And he's like Leland, except in a lower level. Like Jim Leland.
Well, granted, that's true, but I think he'd be, I hate to say it, a better poison pill, if you call it that, than the suggestion that Matt Derry lobbied yesterday on the Sunday Sports Game on Channel 7. Really, Matt? Torrey Hunter? Are you serious with that choice? We're talking about Torrey Hunter, a guy, first and foremost, who sees no value in sabermetrics whatsoever. But no, that'll be all types of wrong. There's a million ways that I wish I could say idiotically stupid the Tigers would be if, of all people, they want to bring in to manage their team, Torrey Hunter. No, thank you. No, thank you.
No, I wouldn't want to go with Torrey Hunter here. He's, I don't know. It's just a crazy decision.
You're crazy! You're crazy! You're crazy! Are you crazy?
So let's move on from that. Torrey Hunter's not going to be the manager, so let's move on from that.
Thankfully.
Yep. I would say that the best option available for the next manager of the Tigers as of right now is Omar Vizquel, because he's our first base coach, but he's one of those other coaches that's not a manager right now, but that can really be a team leader and has the knowledge that we're looking for. I mean, Omar Vizquel doesn't have much or any experience as a manager, but I think Leslie Montero, my other co-host of the Michigan Sports Truth postgame show on Talk Shoe, was wanting Omar Vizquel because just wanted to try it out. I think he thought that Omar Vizquel had a better mentality and a better and much like somewhat more aggressiveness to light a fire under the Tigers team. Wouldn't you say?
It would definitely be seen. It would definitely be. I call it a shot in the dark. You know, you got to do something because this season is already going in an absolute tailspin. You got to do something to salvage it, whatever's left, before it goes completely under, or sinks to the bottom of the ocean, I should say. In terms of long term, at least for now, you can definitely say this would feel like an interim hire while while powers that be look over and go over potential candidates, who they want, who's available, whatever the case may be. Here's a wild card, though, because I remember seeing tweets or reports saying that, whoever the next Tigers manager could be after Ausmus is let go could be an internal matter. Now, did they specify within his own staff, or could it have been anyone that has close affiliation with the Tigers franchise? A wild card name here. Don't kill the messenger. I'm just only going by from what I saw Ryan Schilling explain. This may have been discussed in the Detroit Sports Rag Facebook group a couple of days ago, but he threw out a name, Alan Trammell. Former manager, yes, of course, also known first and foremost.
He was already fired.
Great former player. Yeah, I know. And again, I'll get that in a sec. But I think what Ryan Schilling was trying to advocate, rather, with Trammell, he was a first-time manager starting off, but it was a far different game. One, you didn't have such an advanced knowledge of sabermetrics as you do now, and two, he had a flat-out bad ball club. I mean, yeah, you had a couple of guys. You had, your Pudge Rodriguez here and there, or Megley Ordonez here, but you don't have, Ben, what you do now. You don't have Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez, a J.D. Martinez, and Ian Kinsler even. You don't have a fully developed Justin Verlander compared to what he was when he first started out. I mean, imagine what an Alan Trammell could do with Justin Verlander under his regime. You know what I mean? So it's not too far-fetched, I would say. Now, again, I don't know what Tram's views or opinions are of sabermetrics or analytics in general. So is he more displeasure? If he is more not as embracing towards it, then yeah, that might discredit him. But I wouldn't mind, because like I said, it's like what a lot of people are making the case for Manny Acta. You give him a good payroll, a better payroll with better players. See how he can manage. He seems like a more, and now compared to now compared to then, Tram has more knowledge and experience in how to work the game as a manager. I mean, he was as recently spent the past few years, probably currently still is, in Arizona. I know Kirk Gibson used to be the manager there, and Tram was on his staff. So I'm sure he learned a lot of things while working with Gibby, and vice versa. So who's to say you can't apply that on another go around here? And it reminds me in instances, or rather the case of Again, I keep going to the fact that the season is still salvageable because in certain instances in history, it is proven that if a team fires a coach or a general manager, whatever the case, at the right time and at the right place, and still finds its way into the playoffs, later that year. Some instances, not always, of course, but there's a chance that a team could come out of nowhere and still not only make a deep run, but possibly win the championship. Case in point, the 2003 Florida Marlins. They fired their manager midway through the season, brought in Jack McKeon, and behind their versatile talent, they included the Dontrell Willis and Michael Lowell, Pudge Rodriguez, Ugi Urbina, and of course a young Miguel Cabrera. They defied all the odds, defied all the critics, shocked everyone, and became the surprise team of the year and literally won it all by winning the World Series, beating the Yankees in 6 in Yankee Stadium to close it out. So, again, a bit of a long shot in terms of finding a precedent for this issue, but I think a team this talented, with this payroll, with an owner as old as Mike Ilitch is, trying to do his best to bring the World Series to the city of Detroit, World Series title to the series of Detroit before he dies, what better comparison I guess you could find, or as close to a comparison, than would be the 2003 Marlins. So it's not that much of a far-fetched, out of the realm of possibility here.
After the 9-game homestand, the Tigers go on the West Coast for 6 games against the Oakland Athletics and the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. They had their next 2 Thursdays off, by the way. Let's see if they have a third Wednesday. No, they don't. They return home Thursday, June 2nd, for a makeup game at home against the New York Yankees, in which the Tigers had their home opener this year. Game time for that game on that very date is 7:40 p.m., not 7:10, 7:40 p.m. And then they play the Chicago White Sox at Comerica Park in a 3-game series, and they welcome the Toronto Blue Jays from the 6th through the 8th. White Sox 3rd through 5th in June. Then they have another Thursday off.
Yeah, and then finally heading back on the road to start off with the Yankees, and it's a long 3-series stretch. It's a 10-game stretch, I believe, 10-game road stretch after that homestand, where you're facing the White Sox and the Royals. But back to the matter at hand, you can still find a way to get back into the groove of things. You are facing a Minnesota Twins team that you did sweep earlier on. Zimmerman's going tomorrow. That should be a plus. The only game that seems like a toss-up is the matchup between Pelfrey, who's 0-4, and Hughes for Minnesota, who's 1-6. With Verlander, I'm always, it's not vintage. This isn't vintage Verlander, but I can always find JB to be dependable. So you have a good chance to take 2 out of these next 3 games, and we'll see if that gets the ball rolling here. I'm not sure if they'll make a difference or not, as opposed to the manager situation, or it will be a direct cause of it. But again, that still remains to be seen.
Mike Oxlong says he would really like to see Kirk Gibson take over for Brad Ausmus as manager. I read his comment right there. Your take on that, Ed?
Well, it depends on if Gibby feels up to it. I think he's comfortable what he's doing right now with his gig at Fox Sports Detroit, and not to mention he still has Parkinson's, correct? Am I correct? He's still going through.
But he's doing better.
Disease, right? Well, that's good for him, but I think it would be better to save him of that stress that could bring back about his Parkinson's in a worse way than there would be staying away from the rigors of trying to manage a baseball team like this for a duration of time. So for Gibby, I think for Gibby's sake, I would hope he would rather just stay in the booth and just focus on calling the games more.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, yeah. Oxlong says it would be a great platform for people with Parkinson's too. We were we recall. I was going to mention we recall that Kirk Gibson was the manager of the Arizona Diamondbacks a few years back. But yeah, having Oxlong said that it would be a great platform for people with Parkinson's disease. Uh, uh, yeah, but Ed, you already shared your thoughts on that. I think.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If
Yep.
it wasn't for the fact that that he was available, wasn't going through this issue with his health, I would say sure, give it a shot. But knowing what we know, I would advise against it. Not because I don't think he'd do a bad job. I think he'd do quite well, way better than Osmus. I just don't want to see him put himself and in turn put his family through the unnecessary stress this could potentially bring on, given that what he's going through with this deal with Parkinson's.
Right. So I think we've covered all Tigers here. So I would believe that it's time to move on to some Red Wings here. First off, we have an update on Pavel Datsuk's decision. He will make his decision. He will reveal his decision as well to the world, not to the Red Wings and their fan base, but the world, that he will make that he will make his decision after the World Championships are over with. Now we all know that he is contemplating retiring from the NHL and returning home to Russia to see his daughter, and playing in the KHL in Russia. So there's that. Now,
Well,
yeah,
if I could touch on a brief word, maybe he's pondering the fact that if he retires now, of course we know what an issue it will have on the Red Wings cap space, right?
yeah,
So,
7.5
what
or
is
5.5, whichever. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a problem.
Yeah, now if he does come back, plays out his contract, and then retires at the end of that, that would not be a dent. That would not be essentially dead money for the Wings, right?
No, it wouldn't be dead money if he stays in Detroit. Yeah,
Right. Stays in Detroit,
I think
plays out his contract, and then retire. It wouldn't be a cap hit on the Wings at all, correct?
right. Just another reminder to all the Red Wing fans out there. Yeah, just please know this. If he stays in Detroit, no dead money. If he returns, then there's dead money. Simple.
Okay. So maybe that could be an issue of, and who knows, whoever he's talked with or whatever, or maybe he's seen the light himself. He understands how much of a hole he would be dropping his team into. So maybe he's going to come back at least for one more year, finish out his contract, and then retire, do whatever he wants to do. There is an interesting tweet that I've just retweeted. It's from Avis. I hope I'm saying his name right. Avis Kaunins. He is a hockey writer currently covering the KHL. You can follow him at @A_KALNINS. This is a tweet that he posted on May 10th, which is last week, which says, and I quote, "Hearing Datsuk is leaning towards returning to Detroit for one last season." So that could be the case of where Datsuk, he will, like I mentioned before, he will return to the Wings for this one last year, play out his contract, and then retire, so that next year, and this year and next year, it won't be a detriment to the team's cap space in any way, shape, or form.
That's right. Guests are not able to call in on Spreaker, unfortunately, but they are able and welcome to leave comments. But let's move on to these other Red Wing topics. The Red Wings have fired goaltending coach Jim Bedard. I think that could be step number one in solving the goaltending issues with both Peter Mrazek and Jimmy Howard. The question is, what will step 2 be?
That is the true question here. Step 1, it could have gone either way. I think somebody thought after the major regression that Jimmy Howard has made, you would have thought, okay, something needs to happen here. In this instance, with Mrazek, maybe you could see he did some good things with Mrazek, building him up. So I don't know. It's a thing that I'm glad I'm not on the end of the decision board on that. But I think this is one of the moves I think that the Wings felt, the organization felt they needed to make, because, again, this is your third straight year where you're one and done in the playoffs. Fourth time in the last 5. So you don't want to fire your newly hired head coach from this past season. So unless it was like a major scandal or something that shakes the organization to its core. So nothing that major. So you want to at least give your head coach another shot. Okay, let's make some changes among the staff and the coaching staff and whatnot, and give him another shot for next year. So I think likely this is the reason why we're seeing this change. At least this change for sure, from the goaltending coach perspective.
The Red Wings were also looking for assistant coaches, like we previously talked about in episode 211. They've just hired former Red Wings defenseman Doug Huda as one of the assistant coaches. What do you think of that?
For Huda, it seems like a good hire from their perspective of bringing in someone who's familiar with the franchise, of course, right? He was drafted by them after all. Excuse me 1 second. He does have previous experience being an assistant coach for the Boston Bruins, but they feel they're trying to take advantage on his availability since last month he was relieved of his duties from Boston. So they're going to utilize. They think, okay, he could be a great, I guess not great, but at least commendable use to try to apply some knowledge, or even, in instance, help to try and guide Jeff Blashill through this coaching tenure. Because, like I said, he was hired in 2006. 2006 from the Bruins, was just relieved of his duties only last month. So he's been 10 years with the club. In that span, had the 7th best record in all of the NHL, 57 playoff wins, 4th most in the league. Trailing 3 teams, which was the Blackhawks, the Wings, and the Pittsburgh Penguins. So, not to mention that, he also spent as assistant coach in 3 seasons with the AHL with the Rochester Americans before being called up with the Bruins. And I think the Red Wings look at those numbers, see what he has done with that Boston Bruins team, because the Bruins were not, this was not your historic throwback to nostalgia Boston Bruins teams as it was been in 2006 or before Huda was named the assistant coach. In that span, they've become a perennial playoff contender. And in the instance of 2011 and 2013, made the Stanley Cup final, won the Cup in 2011. So the Wings look upon that and see that, okay, this could be a great value to our coaching staff as a whole. Let's bring him in.
Mike Oxlong typed in Jimmy Coward, then he typed in Fire Holland and Fire Blashill. then bring back Stevie Y. Yeah, I think
that I do.
Yep.
I do agree with that last point. At some point, I would like to see Steve Eisman return home and possibly become president, GM and/or / president of hockey operations. However they phrase it, whatever. He needs to be here in Detroit running the ship. Seeing what he has done in Tampa with the Lightning is remarkable. He's gotten this team to the conference final 2 years in a row, and doing it this year without Steven Stamkos, amazing. Imagine what he could do here in Detroit.
Yeah, and imagine this. Wouldn't it be nice if he was both president and GM of the Red Wings?
And I'm sure he'd be very favorable with the Ilitch family, who wouldn't be in this instance, in this situation, and they would give him more room, more leeway in terms of giving them proper space so he could build something here the way he has done so far with the Lightning.
Mike Oxlong says, Taylor, would you consider taking a play-by-play position with the Red Wings? I actually haven't practiced hockey much, or at all for that matter. I practice play-by-play of hockey at Red Wings training camp once a long time ago, but since then I just haven't practiced it. But I know the term. I know like most of the terminology of hockey, but yeah, I'll take that as a compliment. Thanks, Mike Oxlong. Also, the Red Wings are expected to interview former Columbus Blue Jackets head coach Todd Richards for the other assistant coaching position. Todd Richards was fired after that 0-7, 0-8 start for the Columbus Blue Jackets the past regular season, and then John Tortorella took over. The Blue Jackets finished last place. The Blue Jackets stink. No matter who coaches them. Maybe Todd Richards could be at least a good assistant coach, if not great. Ed?
Maybe. I think the best you could strive for is decent at best, because he's not exactly had the best coaching record. In fact, he's had a very below average coaching record so far. He's never made the playoffs at all. Right. He spent his first 2 years in terms of his coaching record with the Minnesota Wild. Didn't make the playoffs in either of those years. Finished at best third in the division. And then, of course, he's been just an absolute purgatory, to say the least, with the Blue Jackets here. And it got so bad that they fired him last season after an 0-7 start. I mean, yeah, he made the playoffs 1 year. Let me give myself a slight correction on that. He did make the playoffs 1 year, but in that season, though, he had finished fourth in his division and still lost in the first round. So again, not a good measurable layer or level of success that he has had throughout his coaching tenure. Now, granted, I will give him the benefit of the doubt that he is dealing with a bottom dweller in the club as Blue Jackets, and this was not a Minnesota Wild team that is not quite as prevalent as it is now in terms of trying to make good strides for the playoffs. But it is what it is. If the Red Wings give him a shot, sure, but I just don't see it happening. Maybe they'll look at his record. They'll see his record as a detriment against him, and they'll probably see it as a reason to not hire him.
Well, we'll see who they come up with, whether it's Todd Richards or another guy. So we move on to the Detroit Lions now.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Just one little note. The Lions have released offensive tackle Lamar Holmes and signed undrafted rookie defensive lineman Lewis Palmer. Your thoughts on that?
With the signings, I think for the cut of Holmes, I think it was just for a measure of making room for their recent additions to the offensive line, primarily their newest draft pick, Taylor Decker. In terms of the Lamar Holmes signing, this is just, this is a person who's still, I'm surprised they're calling him a veteran. He's only 26 years old. He's been in the league 4 years. Really, that's a veteran. But he has a contract. He's a former undrafted rookie. He was taken third round in 2012, I believe, with the Falcons. He was placed on the PUP list at some point, and then was just cut loose by the team entirely. He did find interest from the likes of the Jets and the Dolphins and the Cowboys, but eventually found a home with the Lions. And in terms of financial aspect, according to OverTheCap.com, releasing him would free up $600,000 available cap space while creating no dead money. So, correction on that. I think that's more beneficial to Atlanta. But in terms of how I feel about the move in general, in terms of giving you proper depth on the defensive line, it's a step forward in that because you need to compensate losing Jason Jones to the Miami Dolphins. So this is probably the reason why they did that. To replace the spot that was left open by the departure of Jason Jones.
So I believe the Lions roster is full. Am I not correct?
Just about. I mean, in terms of before that time frame from between the end of the draft and the start of training camp and preseason, where you got to make that cut, to trim down the roster from 80 or so to 53.
Lions are a lost cause from a user's name that I can't mention. Then Caldwell is on par with Osmus from Mike Oxlong. That's Jim Caldwell.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's just, they're both horribly bad, and again, that's not even a compliment to either person at all as a coach.
That's so true. And then is Joique Bell going to be brought back?
I don't think so.
They released him.
I mean, why? Maybe. I'm not sure. I think it would be a bit of a hassle. Like, why did you go through all this effort releasing him and whatnot, only to bring him back? I mean, unless something drastic happened, like do you need a spot for roster depth, whatever. But you got Theo Riddick, you got Amir Abdullah, among other players. I don't necessarily see the need to bring back Joique Bell. So at the moment, I would say no, there's no need to. But if it came down to a situation where, okay, we need a guy for depth and health purposes, let's bring back Joique. That's the only reason I would say that.
All right. Looks like we're going to move forward to 5 questions.
It's time for 5 questions with Taylor the Gator Phillips.
Question number 1, should the Tigers also fire their hitting coach Wally Joyner, considering that their offense has been sputtering, along with Brad Osmus?
Well, it's definitely stuff they should take into consideration for sure. But then again, if that's the case, fans will be saying, why don't you fire the pitching coach? Why don't you fire the whole staff while you're at it? So you don't want to take that slippery slope, as some would say. The safe bet would be to get rid of the head guy in charge, and that's the manager, and just worry about the rest of the coaching staff as the season plays out.
Mike Oxlong, by the way, was just saying, just commented. He was saying he was hoping the Lions reduced contract offer was still on the table when he was on Sunday's Sports Cave. Who's he talking about? Matt Derry? And then,
could you repeat that again, please? There was like a slight issue with the connection.
Okay. Mike Oxlong commented, quote, he was saying, whoever he is, he was saying he was hoping the Lions' reduced contract offer was still on the table when he was on Sunday Sports Cave. Joik Bell. It was a guess.
I guess he was a guess. I'll be honest. Since moving down here, clearly I haven't had the need to watch anything from Detroit TV. But I am aware that the 7 Sports Caves, the Sunday Sports Cave, does have videos on their own YouTube account. So I guess I have to check those out to see what our commentator meant by that.
And then Oxlong just answered question number 1. He said, no, Wally is fine. Do you agree with this?
I'd be agreeing with that. Yeah, I think the main issue is Osmus. Get rid of Osmus first. Worry about the rest as it comes along.
Yeah, I would have to agree, too, with Mike Oxlong. Question number 2. Did Max Scherzer ask for too much money 2 off seasons ago? Considering he struck out 20 Tiger batters, he could have struck out 21 last Wednesday.
No, this is one of your best performing players on the whole freaking team. I understand the issue of not wanting to commit too many max contracts. You know, you're already dealing with Cabrera and Verlander, and in some instances Martinez and Anibal Sanchez. But, you know, this was a case where it would have really been beneficial to have a Max Scherzer in your back pocket, knowing how things went, knowing that you had to trade David Price as part of the fire sale last year. No, you probably wouldn't have gotten Jordan Zimmerman, but hey, you still have Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander on the same starting rotation together. So, you know, I would say that's a fair trade-off, wouldn't you? So, yes, you should have offered. Illich should have given them the money. I'm pretty damn sure he's regretting it now, isn't he?
Yeah, Max Scherzer did get a huge deal from the Washington Nationals. Smart move by Max, says Mike Oxlong. Yeah, and we can't blame Max Scherzer for any of that. Max Scherzer deserves all that money because he's incredible.
The way he's played, yes, the way he has played. Forget that. Before he joined Washington, the way he played, 2012, 2013, especially 2013, was incredible. Simply remarkable here. And if he didn't deserve that, that money, who else did?
And if I were to blame somebody in that situation, I would blame both Mike Ilitch and then Tigers GM Dave Dombrowski before he got fired in 2015.
Exactly.
Because the front office was dysfunctional and continues to be dysfunctional, even with Al Avila as the new GM. Mike Ilitch and Al Avila are having a bit of a disagreement. I would say concocted in my head. Ilitch wants a more experienced manager. Al Avila wants a smarter manager, which has nothing to do with experience at all. I would have to side with Al Avila on this one. Wouldn't you say, Ed?
Yeah, I understand. Again, this may seem old school. You know, I would have sound too old school to the point where it's archaic. I understand getting a person with experience, but we're at a day and age where it's better to be smart than to be experienced. So if you have a guy that has a good feel of knowing what players to use, what situations to use, whatever the case may be, et cetera, and just being flat out smart about basic things that you know would be beneficial to the other team and not to yours. Like, for instance, bunting in most instances. I'd rather have a smart manager who would not bunt 9.5 times out of 10 than a quote-unquote experienced manager who would.
Yep, Mike Oxlong agrees 100% with Taylor. Yep, and Ed as well. Side with Avila, smart over experience. That is absolutely correct. That is the Michigan sports truth right there.
Done deal, pal.
Question number 3. Was firing...
Next question.
Goaltending coach Jim Bedard a good idea?
I would lean towards yes because, like I said, you don't want to make Jeff Blashill the fall guy. So you want to, give a shakeup after, like I said, 3 straight first-round exits. You want to get this a bit of a shakeup, but not too much of a shakeup because you still want to give Blashill some time to grow and improve. So mix things up on the coaching staff, get him something different, see how it works out, see if it gels and meshes better than it did last year. And this will be, leaning towards a good idea. It could backfire, who knows? But if they have to ask me present time with no knowledge of what happens in the future, I have to say yes. Lean towards a yes.
I actually have to agree on that one.
Next question.
Question number 4. Is Todd Richards a good candidate for the last assistant coaching position? If not, who should they get?
Well, the first part of this question is I'd say no, because his coaching record indicates to me that it wouldn't exactly be... But then again, it would probably go against what some might be saying with the whole, okay, then why do you want Manny Acta so damn bad for the Tigers? So it works both ways here. Anybody can be a candidate, so I shouldn't rule him out that easily. Do I expect him to get the job? No. If not, who they should get, I honestly do not know.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Next question.
Question number 5. Since the Lions released another offensive tackle, should they go after yet another offensive tackle, or is their roster full?
Well, there was one player I wish they had gone after earlier this offseason, especially now in the fact that they apparently want to continue making moves among their offensive line. Why the hell didn't they go after Russell Okung? He was, with the Seattle Seahawks since the start, drafted in 2010 by the Seahawks. Very versatile offensive tackle. Offensive tackle, believe it or not. Going back to his days at college when he played for Oklahoma State, twice recognized as an All-American. Whereas this is a guy who made the Pro Bowl in 2012, of course, won a Super Bowl with the Seahawks, and was an available free agent this year. And here's the thing. You could have signed him because he has no agent. He negotiated his own deal. Well, what? Guess what? The deal signed with the Denver Broncos, 1 year, $5 million, which included an additional 4-year, $48 million option. I'd say that's a damn near steal to get one of the top offensive linemen in the game, and you whiffed.
Man, oh man, oh man.
Don't you think I know that?
Big mistake.
So yes, they probably have no choice but to go after another offensive tackle, even though they probably could have had Russell Okung in their back pocket, and they friggin' didn't jump on it. And kudos to the Broncos for doing so.
Von Miller, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is even worse, though, because you could have gotten Okung for a much cheaper price. And he was an unrestricted free agent. You didn't really have much of a chance with Miller because the Broncos, we were going to, give him a tender, not a tender, but franchise tag him or, do their best to try and match whatever offer sheet possible. But they took the safe route, gave him the franchise tag, which is well deserved. So you really had no chance on that. That was more pipe dream than anything. But the chance to get Russell Okung for literally as cheap as you could possibly get, oh my goodness. Damn it.
Yeah, they missed out on both players. Mike Oxlong says roster is full at this point. Yeah, have to block that other user with that dirty name there. But anyway, Mike Oxlong says he would like to try out to be a co-host. I told him to add me on Facebook, but he doesn't have one. I suggest you create a Facebook account as soon as possible. If you want to try out on Spreaker, you can. I can add you to a group call on Messenger, on the Facebook Messenger app. But anyway, for all the listeners out there, for all the listeners and fans out there, if you want to answer those questions that we just asked, just replay the episode and answer them in the comment bank below this episode as best you can. Shout out on Twitter, Mike Oxlong. Yep, there you go. Just gave a shout out to you. So, we'll keep our eyes open on the Brad Ausmus situation. Another reminder, please share this podcast on all social media networks, and thanks very much. And please keep it clean. Yeah, and thanks to Mike Oxlong for participating.
Oh yeah, really appreciate it.
Yeah, Mike, we'll try in some way, somehow, to try to get you on board with us. So for now, that wraps up episode 212 of the Michigan Sports Truth on Spreaker. Ed, thanks so much again for your help. I'll talk to you again on episode 213. I think we should do this just once a week, since there's just the Tigers going on, not much else.
Yeah, I think during the midst of the long marathon that is the Major League Baseball season, it would be better to keep these episodes, I guess, to a premium, and as to have it serve as a wrap-up, recap, week in review / episode, preview, like you see on Fox Sports Detroit, Tigers Weekly, or that instance, a snippet of that. So I think that's agreeable.
Yeah, except this show is hard hitting as always.
Of course, without
and
doubt.
Smarter.
Oh, that's without question.
Oh yeah. Mike Oxlong says thank you, great job tonight. Love the sound effects. You're welcome, and thank you.
Thank you.
And for Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips. If there's anything you fans want more of or less of on our podcast, please let us know. Ed, thanks a lot. I'll talk to you again next week.
All right, Taylor. Take care.
And you can follow Ed Smith at EdSmith313. You can follow me on Twitter at DT2Phillips. We'll talk to you again next week for episode 213 of the Michigan Sports Truth on Spreaker. TTFN, ta-ta for now.
Bon appetit.